Hey everyone, I'm Victor Dwyer with Piranha, and this is the Failures and Wins podcast. Today I have Amy Weiss today on. We're going to go through some failures, some successes that she had in her industry, and then we're going to really dive into sourcing because we did a poll on this on LinkedIn, and right now the number one concern out of everything that's going on in the world is inflation. Where the rising cost of goods is coming up. And I really wanted to do a webinar that we really covered like, hey, what's the best way to decrease those cost of goods? What's the best way to counter inflation as much as humanly possible and to really not hurt the end consumer? So, Amy, thank you so much for joining today.
Thank you so much for having me, Victor. Like you said,
Oh, no. Oh, man. Amy got kicked out. Dang it. Anyway, wait, here she is. She was so
hey.
excited that she pressed the X button. I don't know what just happened.
Me neither. Yeah, I was like, what? Where? Hey, it's something going on this week. Yesterday, I was streaming from my software, and we kept like glitching out. Maybe it's inflation, right? Our software,
The rising cost of goods.
the software services are glitchy. We're having a problem. We're here, guys. We're here. Hey, bear with us.
That's awesome. Yes, I'd love to get an intro about who you are. What are some of your background? How did you get into sourcing? Like, love to get some background on that.
Yeah, so well, I have an interesting background. I was in the United States Air Force for many, many years. And so I had no plan to be
Yeah.
involved in e-commerce or anything like that. I've been selling on Amazon as a hobby since
Mhm.
2007. So I'm kind of an OG
Great.
in the e-commerce industry when it comes to like how long I've been selling and selling on different platforms like eBay and Etsy. I had my own Etsy shop for a little while. But that was kind of a hobby thing. And then in 2017, I actually invented a product. I had a problem. I was still, full time working for the Air Force,
Mhm.
and I had an idea for a product, and I decided that I needed to bring this thing to the market. And I
Mhm.
knew I could launch it on Amazon because, obviously I've been selling on Amazon for a long time. And Amazon had changed a lot since I started selling in 2007. So it seemed like a very viable platform. But I didn't really know how to create a prototype, how to patent, how to find manufacturers for unique products, whether I should, like, I had to make an injection mold for my product. So I didn't know how to do that.
Wow.
There
Yeah.
was so much, and even though I'm a very educated woman, I have an MBA and a couple of undergraduate business degrees. I have a Master of Science in Cybersecurity. I've got all kinds of IT certifications.
Mhm.
I'm a smart girl, but even my MBA did not teach me how to launch a product from scratch, how to start my own brand, right? So I was
Mhm.
like, man, if I really want to bring this product to market, I guess I'm going to have to figure this out. And
Yeah.
and what I found along the way was that it was it was the resources are not exactly there, right?
Mhm.
The exact steps that you need to take, they're not exactly out there. There are resources, but they're kind of scattered. They're in different places. It's hard to find the right experts. And so I kind of set out on a mission. I've been an instructor, for many, many years in the military, and I know how to teach things. I know how to learn things to the level where I can teach them. So I just thought, you know what, as I'm learning this and figuring this out, I'm going to share. And
Mhm.
so that's how my consulting firm, Amazing at Home, was born. And we do copywriting, marketing, funnels, websites, like you name it. And then the biggest thing that we do is consulting and courses for e-commerce entrepreneurs. So we've helped now thousands of brands launch their products in the marketplace, expand their businesses, help them all the way through exit. Um, and it's been an exciting journey, and I've gotten to take people on sourcing trips to China and Mexico. We have a few other destinations planned as well, but it's just been a wonderful experience, and I wouldn't change anything. It's been great.
That's great. Going through that entire process of like really like setting up your first product, you explain like, hey, there's a huge learning curve when it comes to that. what are some failures that you had when it comes to setting up your product and starting your business that you eventually like that you eventually went through that failure, and then how did you navigate that and go around it essentially?
How much time do we have? And I always tell people that too, when they come to me and maybe their supplier knocked them off, or they created something unique and weren't sure it was going to take off, so they just sold it, started selling it, and now they're getting all these knockoffs or whatever. So I always remind people, like, hey, what you're going through is normal because
Yeah.
all of us have had these kind of mishaps. So I would say the first thing that I didn't know how to do was how to get my molds made. I went through a third party here in the US, and they're just basically outsourcing it to China, right? So I paid 3 times what I would have paid. When I started going to China myself years later, I learned that a mold that I paid $42,000 for through a third party intermediary, I could have paid about $14,000 for on my own, just knowing my own knowledge and having my own resources and contacts. And that's not to say that the company that I went through ripped me off. That's, they have overhead, and, that included shipping it, because this product is made in the USA. So we had the molds made in China, and then we shipped them back. But the other thing that I learned as well is that, you really have to, the first mold maker that I used, actually, they busted all the timelines. So they would send samples of the product back to us, and things would be messed up, right? Like the raw sample from the mold, like the texture on the handles of the product had like a gap in it. It didn't make any sense. And like the logo was off and everything. And you send them CAD drawings, so they're pretty spot on. It's really hard to mess that up, but they messed that up, right? So then we had to go back to them and get them to fix certain things. Well, when you make a mold out of steel, it's not exactly easy to cut back into that thing and fix it, right? It's a very difficult process. And so the second sample that they sent us was equally terrible. And pretty soon they kind of stopped responding. Wow. And I had a funding campaign set up where I was doing crowdfunding to help me with the project. I had pre-orders, and here I was almost a year into the project, and I was not hearing back from this mold maker.
Wow.
And I was like, what do I do? I'm here in the US. I know nothing about China. How do I, and so this is where the business sense, this is where that MBA training actually comes in handy, because you learn a little bit of legal, and I'm like, okay, you know what? I'm going to call some bluffs here. I'm going to go, and I contacted the company that I had went through, and I said, look, you guys are over a year late. Based on my sales projections, I've already lost over 6 figures in sales, and I'm sending my lawyer in next. Like, either you send an inspector in, because they kept pushing, kept kicking the ball down the hallway, right? Oh yeah, well, they said they were moving factories, so we'll check in with them next week. Like, dude, you're already 6 months late, and this is how much revenue I've lost. And if you want to end up in court, we can do that. Otherwise, you need to send an inspector in tomorrow. Like, end of story. And so they actually did send an inspector in the very next day, and the mold maker said, never mind, you can have your money back. Wow. They gave me my money back, but here I was, Victor, almost a year into the project, no mold, no person to help me get a mold. Like, I was stuck and hoping that they were actually scrapping the mold that they had of my unique product, right? So it was fine. I had to find I told all my supporters, I was like, look, I'm not giving up. This is a great product. We're bringing it to market, but I have to find a new mold maker, and I have to start over, and I will keep you informed. And I did. I found a new mold maker. I found a new intermediary, and we moved forward. It cost me even more money the second time around. I think the first quote was like $36,000, and the second one was $42,000. But you know what? We moved forward. We did it. So that was my first like scary thing that I was like, I have no idea what I'm doing. I don't, I don't know if this is going to work, but it took intention and grit and courage to just go, we're not going to let people walk on us. We're going to move forward, and we're going to have a smart business sense, and we're going to stand up for ourselves, and we're going to just keep on going. And so, yes, finally we launched the product in 2018, and
Wow.
it's done really, really well since then. But yeah, I've learned so many things since then, for sure.
That is a really scary story. Like, honestly, like it really is. So you did a really good job explaining that. Wow. Um,
Yeah, I would say
mhm.
another thing is that I didn't know how to vet my suppliers in the beginning. Like I just went through Alibaba, and this is so many people do this. You just go through Alibaba and you find a supplier and you think that they're who they say they are, but 99.9% of them are not. There's so
Wow.
many third parties on Alibaba that are just like posting there, and so it's really important to learn how to vet your factories. So now I have a 7-step vetting process that I teach people. But the second biggest mistake that I made is before I started going to China, before I didn't know what to do. So I was just like going on Alibaba and finding suppliers. And I made some unique differentiations to products with trading companies.
Hmm.
And they ended up putting some of my pictures of my products on Alibaba. Luckily, I was able to get them to take them down. But you can't have you can have a contract with a trading company, but it doesn't do you any good because, they're outsourcing your work to a factory anyway. So that
True.
factory that's making your goods could still sell it to other trading companies and everything else. So if you're buying stock products, who cares? Like, get your best price and best quality and move forward, right? That's fine. But if
Hmm.
you're differentiating, like you really need to do today, because there's so many sellers in the marketplace, right? So if you're differentiating and doing something unique to your product, you need to know how to vet your factories, and you need to have an attorney in the country. I'm actually in litigation with one of my suppliers right now, in China. It's so you need to know what you're doing in that country, and you need to have local resources in that country, and it makes all the difference in the world. So I would say that was my second biggest kind of newbie mistake, is just not knowing how to vet factories. I've been very lucky that I've been able to get them to like take certain pictures down and stuff like that. But now that I've worked with thousands of e-commerce entrepreneurs, I know that that's not usually what happens. What usually happens is an absolute nightmare for the seller. So just those foundational things in the beginning are so important.
So, like, if I was a seller and I was just trying to get started on, like, just started, like, of creating a product, and like I saw, like, if I was a seller and so obviously I know not to go to Alibaba and buy it through there. What would be if I saw a product on Alibaba and I was like, okay, I want to sell that product? What would you recommend that you do to find that supplier and find the real like manufacturer of the product and have a direct relationship with them and then like help scale it out? What would you do there?
That's such a good question, Victor. First of all, I just want to point out that there's nothing wrong with going to Alibaba. You can
Mhm.
absolutely go to Alibaba and look for suppliers. There are a lot of third parties there to filter through, but there's nothing wrong with going to Alibaba and searching. There are a
Mhm.
lot of really great factories there. There are also a lot of really great factories that are not on Alibaba. Like if you go to Canton Fair in China, which is one of the largest exposition of suppliers. There's over 60,000 suppliers in each phase
Wow.
of Canton Fair. So, but a lot of them are not on Alibaba, right? So, there might be third parties that are posting for them, but
Mhm.
it's important to know that there's nothing wrong with finding a supplier on Alibaba.
Mhm.
What is wrong is not actually vetting that supplier, not
Okay.
understanding. So how do you vet a supplier? Let's talk about that, right? Because yeah, I can message them on Alibaba chat, and I'm a big proponent of Alibaba. I love them. They've created a
Mhm.
really great platform, and I would never hate on Alibaba, right? They're great.
Mhm.
They've brought a lot of people together and enabled suppliers to reach global buyers around the world, right?
Mhm.
So that's awesome. So if you were in that situation, Victor, and you're looking for your product, right? And you go on Alibaba and you find what looks like a pretty good supplier, right?
Mhm.
Your sourcing efforts start before you even go on Alibaba. So the first
Okay.
thing that I would encourage you to do is have your specs together. So your specs, your spec documents, your specifications, that's what tells us what is the size, what is the shape, what is the
Mhm.
height, what is the width, where are we putting X, Y, or Z, right? We need to know that. So many people will have an idea. They'll go, I want to add lights to this water jug. It's going to be a flashlight water jug. Okay. It's going to be awesome.
Cool.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. But I want to do that. Right. But I'm just going to go find a supplier right now. No, you don't find a supplier right now. That's going to be a hot mess. You need to kind of prototype this. You need to kind of make sure, like, where do the lights go? Would they be installed in the cap? How's that going to work with the water? Is it washable? Like,
Oh no, we lost her again. Yeah. I mean, it's really, really interesting what she's talking about. Like, there she is.
hey, we lost
Hey,
you again.
the satellites realigned or something.
Okay, we're back.
Mercury. Yeah, we're back.
So speaking
Uh-huh.
of these lights, right? We call this DIY prototyping in my program, and what we and why we call it DIY is because we're not designers, right? We're not, but you don't want to go to a designer yet. If I have this idea that I'm going to differentiate this cup by adding lights to it, well, I need to figure that out for myself and go, where am I going to put the lights and how's that going to work? And that doesn't mean that I need to be an electrical engineer. I just literally need to go, maybe I'm going to go get a flashlight and or maybe some little portable LED lights, some stick-on LED lights, whatever, whatever it is. And then I'm going to go get one of these and I'm just going to start kind of playing around and just understanding, like, if I stick these lights up here, ooh, would that work in the dishwasher? Okay, maybe I make a cap up here that's removable. You got to think through that. You have to think through how it would actually work, because I've had so many entrepreneurs fully develop a product, pay for patents, and then come to me and go, I'm ready to source, Amy. And I'm like, you should have came to me when you were starting with this idea, because either the product's saturated and your differentiation doesn't matter to the customer. If you differentiate in a way that doesn't matter to the customer, what a lot of people do is they look at bad reviews. And they go, oh, people don't like this, but no one's searching for what's wrong with the product. Yeah. People are searching for that keyword for the product. So just because you differentiate with what other people are complaining about doesn't mean those same people who left the bad reviews are going to return and now buy yours, right? There's no way for them to find it. You don't have a keyword there, right? So it's very dangerous to use bad reviews in your differentiation. If you're using bad reviews of your competitors when you're thinking about the quality and expectation, the bottom line of your product, that's great. But when you're thinking about differentiation, you need to look at the overall market, not just Amazon data. You need to look at the overall market and say, okay, what are people actually doing in this market? Like, are people concerned, what kind of accessories do they want on water bottles, right? What else do they use water bottles for? Sometimes you can find that in reviews, but you can find, like, in good reviews, oh, I use this for my bike, or I use this for this, right? You can find that, but you really need to look into, why do people have this type of water bottle in the first place? And how can I make it better for them, right? Dig into the problems, because when customers make buying decisions, they don't just start on Amazon. True. Right? In fact, over 50% of Amazon's traffic comes from off of Amazon. Most of us, when we're buying something new, we'll research on Google. In fact, 60% of Amazon's non-direct to Amazon traffic comes from search, which is Google owns 90% of that, right? So It's very important that you guys, when you're thinking about differentiating a product, that you're thinking about that. You're thinking about, what does the market actually want? Don't just get into your helium-10 and your tools and go, oh, here's the keyword I'm going to sell under. There's opportunity here, right? Think about, okay, how am I differentiating? How am I going to stand out on the page? And how can I make it for the same price and have an even better value, right? And just make it stupid simple for the customer to choose me. So going back to your question, Victor, the first thing that we have to do is figure out what are we differentiating, and does that matter to the customer? Second, we need to DIY prototype it so we actually understand, like, oh yeah, I think that I want to add lights to this, and I validated that that's what the customer would actually want. Like they're looking for security along with their water bottle at night, whatever. Right? So I validated that, but like, how would it actually work? So then once I put that together, then I actually know, okay, how I'm going to make it work is the lights are going to go on the cap. And then that way we don't have to, we don't need a mold for this. And, we're just going to make a mold for the cap, and we're going to, so then the second part of that, you can then take that ugly prototype to a designer. You could, hire a 3D CAD designer. You could 3D print it, however you want to do it. I 3D printed a mini version of my product in these horrible colors. That was fun. But this is actually a really big product, but I 3D printed a mini version, right? So that I could play around with it and see what was going on. So my kids actually used to play with this with their Barbie dolls. But you can 3D print a mini version. You can do mock-ups. If you just have an idea, you can have somebody kind of like Photoshop a mock-up, and then you could put that on like PickFu and get market research and validation before you even move forward with sourcing. You could say, which one would you pick? You could do a mock-up of one Amazon product, another Amazon product, and then put your picture of your mock-up. They won't be able to tell the difference. Put your mock title in there, some reviews, assume that you have some reviews and a price, and go, which one would you choose? Which product would you choose? Now, before you've even sourced it or differentiated or done, before you've even like finalized your specifications, you now have feedback on PickFu. You can get 100 responses in an hour. So now I got feedback from people that, they would actually choose this product. Sweet. I got confidence to move forward. Then what I'm going to do, I'm going to study my manufacturing process. Okay? I need to know, how is this thing made, right? And there's a great show called How It's Made. You can look up manufacturing processes, different things. But I always tell everybody, if you don't know how this product is made, how are you going to vet a supplier that would make it? If you have them walk you through the factory and all you see in that factory is conveyor belts, that's a trading company, guys. Sorry, it's not a factory. You need to know what kind of machines make this. What's the process? Because when you're walking around that factory or even doing a virtual tour, which most of us are doing now with China because of the COVID closures, if you don't know what that factory actually looks like or what kind of machines they use, you have no way of vetting them. You're just lost. Right? So you as the brand owner, you as the manufacturer, that's actually you're considered the manufacturer when you're the brand owner. You're just contracting your manufacturing to a manufacturer. So you need to know what your manufacturing process is. You need to know how that product is made. Then when you go to Alibaba, your whole search looks different, right? Mm-hmm. You go and you look at the pictures of that factory. I can bring up any factory on Alibaba. And if I know what you're making and I can click through their pictures and then do some cross-referencing on different websites and stuff, and I can figure out if they are who they say they are by just looking at that. I can look at their number of employees. I can look at, all of those things that I know. I can look at that and know whether they're legit or not. But if you don't know anything about your manufacturing process, you just have an idea and you haven't prototyped it at all, you haven't done anything with it, you don't know what your specifications are, you don't know how that idea would actually work, then actually what you're doing is you're giving up your idea and your protection to someone else because they're actually developing your idea, not you. So that's very important, is figure out what exactly it is that you're doing before you do it, validate your idea before you move forward, DIY prototype, make sure it works, get your specifications documents in order, then go look for a supplier. It's okay if you find them on Alibaba, but get them on a phone call. Actually talk to them. Talk to them about how long they've been in business. Talk to them about the number of employees they have. Talk to them about their location. Talk to them about their primary import and export markets. Understand what else they make. Have them show you around the showroom floor, right? All of those things. We want to understand who our suppliers are. And we're not releasing our unique designs to them yet. Right? Mm-hmm. I might, if I'm sourcing this, I'm going to go find a supplier that can make this. I'm not going to tell them to put lights on it yet, right? I am going to go just talk to them. I know how this is made. I'm going to go talk to them. I'm going to see set up a meeting. Hey, I want to talk to you about this product that you make. Tell me about you first of all, before we get into the talk about the product. Then you start talking about the product and you go, okay, tell me more about this. What kind of colors can I change the material? Can I change out the cap? Do I need the straw? Get to know them. If they're super uncomfortable about talking about differentiating, do you think they're a good partner for you?
Nope.
Really not, right? If you want to differentiate and you get on a call with them about this stock product that they have and you start talking about, can I change out the cap? You're not giving your idea. You're just saying, can I change this out? I'd like this to be a different material. I want it to be a silicone. Would that be all right? And they're going, no, thank you for your time. This has been great. We'll be in touch. Bye. That's what you want to do. So you really
Is language a problem? Is language a language barrier ever a problem? I assume that these manufacturers are not used to talking to Americans or talking through English. I assume, is that ever an issue for you?
Well, not really. It's rarely an issue. Most of the time, most suppliers have a sales team that's bilingual, right? Because think about their primary export markets, right? So at least you'll have a sales team. It's helpful. Like for me, I have people in China that can help me, right? So then if I need somebody, I can just call somebody to get on the call with me to translate. But thus far, it's been okay. Same in Mexico. It's most of Mexico, like 90% of the country speaks English, right? So along with Spanish. So in terms of especially in the bigger cities, so that's usually not a problem. At our expo and sourcing trip, we do have simultaneous translation and we have translators walking the floor. But me going booth to booth when I was at Evoletem, it was fine, in terms of just speaking with them. And, there was a couple of people that were like, sorry, I'm not confident in my English. And I was like, well, your English is better than my Spanish. Let's call a translator over here, right? So yeah,
that's awesome.
It's still a really good experience.
I also really liked how you talked about really adjusting the packaging and basically A/B testing it beforehand. That is so crucial, especially when it comes to Amazon, packaging wise. Because you could have amazing product that is amazing in every way, but if you don't A/B test your packaging, that is one of the biggest things you can do. For example, picking out a blue product versus a white product. Just A/B testing packaging like that can make huge sales differences.
Yeah, and what I was talking about earlier was not your packaging. It was showing the product itself.
True.
Just because I want to put lights in this, right? I can take a picture of this and then I can have somebody Photoshop the lights, right? And then I can put that mock-up on, I can make it look like it's being sold on Amazon, right? I just take that picture and I put that mock-up up there next to the water bottle without lights. And I show that mine's the same price. And I show that mine has, some reviews, but my competitor has 15,000 reviews. You get real, right? And then you go, okay, which product would you choose and why? And that helps you move forward with your product design in confidence. Right. But I agree when it comes to your packaging, even your branding, your branding and your packaging, a lot of people try to do DIY branding and there's nothing wrong with that. I did it when I first started too. We all like to think of ourselves we all like to think we know because we've seen Coca-Cola. We know, we know major brands. We know McDonald's. We can have the same tagline, it's fine. So
just do it. Just do it.
Just do it. We think we know how to do it in the beginning. We're we just hire somebody on Fiverr. And what a lot of people don't realize is even those big design, logo design contests that you can do on 99 designs and stuff. A lot of the freelancers that enter those competitions, there are example logos in Photoshop, and that's what these people are submitting. They're literally just putting they're changing the font to or not the font, but the word of the fake logo to yours. And they're just submitting the Photoshop version of the logo. And it's not actually, and I didn't know that until one of my designers that worked on my team told me that. I set up a design contest and I was like, hey, what do you think of these designs? And he said, he pulled up Photoshop and he was like, 90% of them are right here. This is not This is not designing anything. So
Wow.
it's very important for people to realize that when they think they're getting a professional logo, it is expensive to go through a professional branding agency. But when I have clients that are developing like a unique brand, serving a niche market, like just that they're going to crush it, right? They're first to market with something really cool. I'm like, you got to go to XYZ branding firm. Because they're just going to make sure that your colors are right, that a lot of people don't know orange is the most hated color from anyone, right? I mean, so I was looking at a supplement brand the other day and their whole label was orange. And I was like, ooh, that's not good. Like, look into the brand color wheel, look at your fonts matter, your colors matter. So it sends a message, right? So we want to make sure, yes, I get it. Sometimes we got to bootstrap. Sometimes we just want to test a product. We can make it look as professional as possible. But when it comes to scaling, you really got to think about that branding. Yeah.
And I really, when an entrepreneur comes to me and they start talking more about the brand colors and fonts and things like that, I usually, those type of entrepreneurs, they usually don't end up being successful in my perspective, because they're more focused on the colors and things like that rather than the actual functionality, I guess is the best way to say it. Like, they're not focused on, like, for example, like the advertising efforts. They're focused on, like, okay, does this particular, or like, for our particular red match our other particular red? And this is like, and it, like, at the end of the day, testing is so crucial. We lost her again. I'm just gonna keep talking. Testing is so crucial, like, when it comes to building a brand. Hey, Amy. I just kept going. But basically,
Yeah.
where I was going with that is, like, testing is so crucial, and you don't necessarily have to match your brand colors unless it's like testing, because we have to go a lot faster than we did before. Our competitors are moving very fast, and we have to test really, really even faster than them. And we won't be able to always like match the brand colors, brand font, things like that, because sometimes you just need to test it. Who knows? This Piranha logo could look better in Times New Roman. Like, you never know, and people might like that better. So the satellites are just like going crazy right now. So I don't know what's going on, but
We keep
Amy, is
losing our
everything okay?
connection for some reason.
Yeah, you're
I'm
good.
telling you, it's the stream. There's something going on.
I have no idea what is happening. Oh, that's hilarious. Regardless,
Oh my goodness. Well,
Amy, I guess your internet is just like just going boop like that.
I'm hardwired to my router. Are you
I
sure
have
it's
no
not your
idea.
internet?
It's not. I'm not disconnecting, so I don't know. But anyway, please, sorry for sidetracking you. Please, is there any other? So you have the product. You talk to your supplier. Ah, dang it. Anyway, I'm trying. Doing with what I got. Doing with what I got. I think she's restarting Chrome now. But like, it's really, really important just to keep testing at the end of the day. Like, I really do think that. Okay. We good? Okay, cool. I think we're
I have
good.
no idea what's going on. Like I said, I've had internet the whole time. Nothing. It keeps
I
saying
have
that one of the streams is having trouble. That's what the message I get on this side. So
I have no idea.
we'll
Anyway,
keep going.
please, when it comes down to the so you have a brand, that you talk to the manufacturer, you walk the factory, you know that you want to do it. What are your next steps after you're done talking to them? You see the factory, everything looks good. I think I need a supplier for my internet. I think that's what I need. A supplier for my streaming service.
Yeah.
I
So
was saying, yeah,
the
go ahead.
next
Go ahead.
the next
I have no idea. I have no idea what to do.
I don't know what's
Amy,
happening.
I have no idea. I have no idea. Okay, go
Well,
ahead.
should we just
Go
keep
ahead.
going? We'll just
Go
keep
ahead. Try.
going,
Let's
guys.
try. Let's try.
Um,
Let's try.
so
Oh, snap. We'll probably have to do a part two. Amy, I think we'll maybe have to do a part two on this.
yeah,
It's so weird. I'm not disconnecting. It's like, it's so weird that it's only coming from your side. So I think we'll have to wrap it up and just do a part two of this. And a super engaging conversation, super amazing. Amy, Thank you so much for joining. And we're just going to make a part 2 of this somewhere in the future to keep the audience right on a cliffhanger. We'll just call it like
Yeah.
a cliffhanger and then go from there. Amy, please tell them how to find you, where to find your website, and let's go from there.
Okay, so you guys can find me at amazingathome.com. We have a contact form there. You can get a free listing review from me at amazingathome.com. You can go to /listing review. You can find me on LinkedIn. We also have a Facebook group for Amazon sellers, e-commerce sellers called Amazing at Home. So you can find us there. Just answer all the questions because we're very picky about who we let in there. And then you can follow our YouTube channel. I've got tons of videos all about sourcing and everything. We'll add this one there as well. And of course, now that we're wrapping up, everything's working well.
Okay, here, how about this? The next time you disconnect, we'll just end it from there. You've already said your outro. Let's continue it. And just the next time you disconnect, let's just call it. So
Okay.
from there, once you have the manufacturer, once you go from there, what are the next steps you go from on that side?
Yeah, so once you have your manufacturer, what you're going to do is you're going to then enter into a contract with that manufacturer. Because if you're doing something unique or different, you need to ensure that before you release your designs to them, that they've agreed that to protect those designs. So you want to use a legal professional in the country where you're sourcing from. You don't want to send an NDA in English to your Chinese supplier. They'll sign that all day long because it means nothing in their country. So, and that's not out of bad will for them. It's just bottom line is it doesn't hold weight in their country, That would be like somebody sending you, in America, a contract in Chinese, and you're like, yeah, sure, I'll sign that. It means nothing to me, right? It's not upholdable in the United States of America, right? So you need to have